Jordan has been and continues to be a key ally for the United States in the world's most dangerous neighborhood in the Middle East. It is a member of the U.S.-led coalition against ISIS and the Saudi-led coalition against Shiite rebels in Yemen. Over the weekend, my colleague Bret Baier talked about all of that with King Abdullah in Amman, Jordan.
Shannon, greetings from Amman. I sat down with the leader of this country, King Abdullah of Jordan, talking about the challenges this country faces. One, the fight against ISIS. Two, the refugees that are in this country, more than 1 million from Syria, and that's a big economic burden for Jordan. And three, the presence of Iran and their domination, really, throughout the Middle East. We started talking about that Jordanian pilot killed brutally in that ISIS video, how it rallied this country to airstrikes that continue to this day.
We've been at war against what we call these outlaws of Islam. In Arabic, we call them Khawarij, for many, many years. And I don't think a lot of Muslims understood that. And I think it probably took the Muslims in France to understand that only recently with the Paris tragedies, or only several months ago in Paris or in Canada, or for the Jordanians to really understand what they were up against with the loss of our pilot, our hero, several months ago.
That changed things.
It changed things because I think our society needs to be shocked to the extent of what these Khawarij, these outlaws, are actually all about.
You're saying Khawarij is ISIS or Daesh. That's the name that you're circling around now,
yes,
Khawarij.
These are, I mean, I hate to use the word extremist because they take that as a badge of honor. I mean, you know, I don't know what these people are. These are outlaws. These are renegades. They have nothing to do with understanding what our religion is about. And they have basically targeting Muslims before they target other religions. And more Muslims have died because of them than any other religion. And so this has been our war. And I think this is the challenge that I think, unfortunately, the West and the United States have suffered from, because it always looks, and they want to perpetuate this issue, that, you know, if the West are involved in our part of the world, that this is a crusade. And it's not. This is a war that we have inside of Islam against these people. And this is something that has to be better understood.
So let's talk about the Khawarij threat, the ISIS threat. What is your thumbnail assessment of who they actually are, what they're trying to accomplish, and how they rose so quickly?
Well, in a way, it's a franchise. So, you know, whether you're Al-Qaeda or ISIS or Boko Haram or Shabab, the next worst element that comes up, whatever name they give themselves, everybody else will suddenly turn and give allegiance to that group. So the scum always sort of surfaces to the top. The problem is they're international, and I don't think that the international community realizes that they have to be dealt with internationally. So today we are focusing on what you call ISIS, we call Daesh in Syria and in Iraq. But at the same time, in 2015, we have to have a holistic approach. After
your pilot was killed in that horrible video, you stepped up airstrikes, and those strikes are continuing?
We stepped up big time. We are, at the moment, the only Arab country operating in Syria alongside the United States. The Canadians have just joined. The UAE and Bahrain joined us right after the pilot died, but have since pulled back because of Yemen. We are the only Arab country operating alongside the Iraqis in Iraq, alongside the coalition forces. And as the Iraqis and the coalition increase their tempo for the next phase of operations inside of Iraq, so will Jordan increase its tempo in support of Iraq. And I'm sure, I can't get into the details, that there are other things on the table when it comes to Eastern Syria.
So this region is complex. It is almost like the three-dimensional chess. You move a piece, and there are other pieces that are moved. Iran, what is your assessment of Iran from a Jordanian point of view?
Well, Iran has a lot of different cards it plays. One that is obviously of tremendous importance to the United States, as has been discussed now, is the nuclear one. But it does have its role in Iraq, as I mentioned, with its influence sometimes in Baghdad. It does have its support to the regime in Syria. It does have its support for Hezbollah in Lebanon, and to an extent in Syria. It has its presence in Yemen, the Horn of Africa. It does play its influence in Afghanistan. It has its tensions with Pakistan on its borders. So when you deal with Iran, you have to deal with Iran with all these different cards to have a better understanding of it. You've got to connect all these dots together. All these issues are areas of instability. So these are things that have to be discussed with the Iranians. You can't, I think, discuss them in isolation.
Your assessment of the Arab coalition that you're a part of with the threat from Iran-backed rebels in Yemen?
As commander of special operations many years ago, I was involved in training Yemeni special forces, so I know the complications of Yemen. And I think that I would humbly suggest that the quicker we find a political situation to that issue, the better.
Is the U.S. strong in this region?
Well, we have a very, very strong relationship with the United States. We've had it historically. It's gotten stronger, I think, over the years because we've worked so closely together on so many issues. I'm glad to see that the relationship has strengthened with two of our strong allies. I think it's getting stronger with Egypt, which we desperately need when we're dealing with the Boko Haram and Shabab threat, with the challenges that President Sisi has with Sinai and with Libya. The King of Morocco is a strong partner with me in dealing with the Khawarij, with the Islamic terrorist organizations, especially in West Africa. His relationship with the United States has improved, and I think that is a good thing.
Back in 2011, you said, I think everybody is wary of dealing with the West, looking at how quickly people turned their backs on Mubarak. I would say that most people are going to try to go their own way. I think there is going to be less coordination with the West and therefore a chance of more misunderstandings. And is that what has happened?
Well, I think the relationship is strong, as I said. I think the relationships have changed. I think Arab Spring was a lesson for all of us in the region on how we deal with our friends. We express our views to our Western allies, but I think the difference is now we express them quite strongly. And in my point of view, there's been many times where I've said, look, this is how I think things are going. And my view is not to wait as much as I used to in the old days for an answer, because things are happening and you've got to react quickly.
So sort of an evolution of the relationship.
For me, definitely, it's been a wake-up call that we need to stand more on our own 2 feet and take our own decisions and be more bullish and straightforward about it. At the end of the day, I think I know what's best for my country and for the region. And I think a blunt and honest discussion with friends is always much better than being wishy-washy.
The king says Syria, Jordan's neighbor to the north and the source of most of Jordan's refugees, continues to, quote, fall apart.
We've technically got 2 wars going on at the moment, one against the regime and one against ISIS-Daesh. So which one is the priority? In my view, today it's ISIS and Daesh. They're the main problem. So you've got a war against ISIS on the east and a war against the regime on the west. You have moderate forces from the Free Syrian Army that are supported by the Western community and Jordan from the south, and then you've got chaos across the Turkish border from the north. So you've got to figure out those elements. Now, we have to redefine the moderate opposition, or Rome. You've got to find people from the inside. So if you can do that, you have to find a political solution, because the more this goes on, the more the country just falls apart.
Because Iran is active there. I mean, they're obviously supporting Assad 100%.
Absolutely.
And
we're seeing, Iranians on the ground there, and actually not too far away from our border. So, that's an issue that we've discussed with the Iranians.
You have?
Yes.
And so their outreach, their reach to Iraq, Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, that's concerning for you.
And again, don't forget Africa. If they can be a building block of stability as these discussions move forward, then all great and fine. But it can't be taken, I think, piece by piece. I hope that the next phase of discussions with the Iranians is how can we move ahead on all these issues.
The biggest challenge for you here?
Economy. From a military strategic point of view, if you look at the map, ISIS is actually not near us, and that's not by accident. They're in the eastern part of Syria, up north. They're in 100 to 120 kilometers away from the Iraqi border. In actual fact, it's all open terrain. We'd love them to come towards us because it gives us a chance to a bit of payback, to be quite honest. So what keeps us up at night is the economy. I mean, the effect that the refugees is having on our budget.
There are 1.5 million Syrian refugees in our country. That's almost 21% of our population. And when this year only 28 to 29% of the refugee budget is being covered by the whole international community, and the rest we have to cover, it's pretty depressing, quite honestly.
Despite all of the challenges, the king makes time for his family. 2 of his kids are studying in the U.S. now. 2 others are at home.
I make it a point. I have dinner with my kids every night, and I try and have at least a day with them on the weekends. And I Skype with my kids in the States all the time.
You Skype with your kids?
Yeah, it's great. It's fantastic. And family time for me is very, very important. So with the younger ones, I love to cook. So we cook together on the weekends.
King Abdullah says the supply of weapons from the U.S. has improved dramatically in recent weeks. He says there's much more to be done against ISIS in Syria and Iraq. And, of course, the never-ending controversy in the Middle East between the Israelis and Palestinians, whether a 2-state solution will move forward. He's always dealing with that.